Okay, so I've been asked here recently, what's the best way to set up your Garmin? Right now I'm going to show the bike computer. What's the best way to set it up for training and racing and all that stuff? And there's a few pitfalls that I see people falling into with this. So I'm going to run through it real quick. This is a Garmin 520 Plus. Some of you guys have the 1080 or whatever it is, but I prefer the 520. I just think it's a really good device. So when you first turn it on, this is the screen that it comes to, and it says ride. So if you hit the enter button right here, and I'm not going to go through all the navigational screens, but you'll see you have activity options. You have train, you have indoor, and you have race. This is the very first place I see athletes making a common mistake is on race day, they will come in and put it on race because it's a race. Well, the problem is they don't go in and actually set up those zones or set up the screens. So we'll go ahead and we're going to jump into kind of the difference between them and how I set them up, and then I'll talk a little bit more about the way that I set up the training one. So come in here. I prefer to have a bunch of fields. I like to have time, and I like to have my 3-second power. Sometimes I'll use 10-second power. Recently I've been using 3-second power, just working on some stuff. But and then I'll have heart rate. Normalized power last lap is a very important one for me. Speed's not necessary, but I have speed on there. And then you have kilojoules because I like to measure the energy expenditure of a ride and kind of get a feel for where I'm at nutritionally. And then you'll see distance and time of day. Now, these obviously can be interchanged with other things, but these are the ones that I prefer. I generally don't scroll past this main screen. Navigate maybe if I'm out of town or looking for roads. I never look at this screen. This is the total ascent screen. And this one is just kind of your laps. So I never look at those. This is the screen I stay on pretty much all the time when I'm training. So let's go back. And let's go into indoor. Now this is where you'll notice it's a little bit different when I put it on there. So indoor mode is going to kill the GPS, so you won't have any GPS signal, which is perfectly fine because you're on the trainer. I go with current lap because usually on the trainer I'm doing like intervals or something. So current lap, again, 3-second power, heart rate, kilojoules, normalized power last lap, and cadence. Notice that cadence isn't on my other one. I'm pretty comfortable with my cadence outside, but I find that when you're inside, your cadence can drop substantially, sometimes 5 to 8 RPM on the trainer, especially if you're using something like erg mode. So this is something good to keep your eye on. Again, I don't even know what the other screens are set up as. I don't. Looks like they're all default. I don't use those. And let's take it back one more time. And let's go to race. Now this is where people mess up. They do not set up their race layout the way that they want it. You'll notice that this is very different than my training layout. Power, I've got 10-second power on this one for racing. I find that it helps me be a little bit more smooth and controlled over time, especially if there's any type of elevation change. You have time in the top left corner, power last lap, very important. Again, I want to know kind of am I on pace, and I've got it set to auto lap every 5 miles, I believe. And then I've got heart rate, last lap heart rate, again, another one because I want to watch these two and make sure that if this one's staying the same power, then my heart rate's not going up or down. If it is, then I want to kind of keep that in check. Later in long races, whether they're bike races or triathlons, sometimes this number can slide up as it gets hotter or that you've missed nutrition. So it's a good indicator of, something's not quite right. And I've got total ascent because, well, I like to go up and down a lot. So I like seeing how much I've climbed, and then distance. Notice what's not on here. Speed is not on here. Speed is only on my training one because it's fun to look at. But speed is not on here because speed is 100% irrelevant on race day. If you execute your training, the speed will be there. So again, and I don't look at these other screens. Looks like they're all default. You can tell I don't do anything with those screens. So this is kind of my preferred setup. Oops, I just started it. Dismiss. Let's stop it. So back to the training one. Let's go discard. I've all messed up here. So back to training. What you want to think about here is, depending on the purpose of your training, sometimes I'll change these screens. Sometimes I'll do elapsed time. Sometimes I'll do, last lap heart rate, things like that. But for training, this is my general layout. And I've had several people ask me, so hopefully this gives you guys kind of a foundation. Toy with some of them. Try to look around and see, which screens you like to see, and set them up. Make sure it works for you. It's not just a piece of equipment you start and stop. Utilize it. It'll actually help your training and make you absolutely a better athlete in the end.